Here, okay, and we're live. So to start off, thank you to current viewers. Hello, Ven. It is actually midnight for Ven. He's in the UK. So bless him for still being awake. I always thank my team Rewatch because I've discovered my voice is the background on their drive to and from work or doing other things. And today I'm joined by Josh from Already Overbooked. So welcome, Josh.
Welcome. Thanks, Elaine. I really appreciate you having me.
Hey, not a problem. It's fun. And I love having guests on because, it means I don't have to talk all by myself all the time. And that's awesome. But Josh, the name of your channel, I love it. Where did it come from?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. All right. So a little bit of backstory.
Yep.
Years ago, I actually started a podcast with a buddy of mine, and we did
Oh, cool.
podcasts where we talked about books, and it was a lot of fun. And we decided probably after 6 months, this is probably not the best for our friendship because it became too business related rather than just being fun. So we
Oh,
kind of
interesting.
we dropped it and said, hey, we'll still be friends, but we're not going to do this professional thing. So I was just in the comments. I was a comment person. I would comment on everyone's videos and have fun. And I was like, man, I really want to start a channel. I want to be back into the conversation because I feel like you can probably relate to this. Once you're in the conversation with people, you're like, and then you take a step back, you're like, oh, I miss it. I want to be back in and talking with people and get my voice out there, giving
Yeah.
out my opinions. So I was like, all right, I want to start a channel. So I was working on building this office for my job. And I was like, once the office is built, I will go and create a channel. And I was creating names and thinking of names. And I went to my wife going, what do you think of these? And she was like, I hate all of them. And I was like, okay, well, you're brutally honest. And I love that about her. So she was like, I don't like any of these. So I was like, okay. So I was working one day in like working from home for my job.
Yeah.
And I was complaining to my wife going, they keep putting meetings on my calendar after meetings after meetings. Can't they tell that I'm already overbooked? And then she was
Oh,
like, that's your name. And I said, what's my name? Me complaining? And she said, no, already overbooked. And I said, I love it. So that's kind of where it came from.
awesome.
My wife pointed, it was like, that's it. You're welcome. And then went off the races from there.
Well, and it's neat because, so many of us through BookTube are always saying, we're trying to keep up with other channels and feel bad if you can't, watch the channels or comment or, I've had this many plans to read these books and I can't get to them. And that's what really caught me with you is when I saw your title, it's like, I'm pretty sure every booktuber can relate. And for some, and like you said in your video as well with your 90 days, right? And suddenly it came and went. Um, in terms of working and trying to create content. I mean, in my case, I'm home. So this is kind of my thing to do and get me out of bed during the day. And I'm always fascinated by people who have full-time jobs and little kiddos and everything else and still managing to put videos together. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing you're all younger. I might have done it when I was in my 40s, but whoa, I just can't imagine because I mean, you were right as well. And I know Ven and I have chatted about this as well because he works full-time on top of being a booktuber as well. And it's finding that balance, right? Between, you've got your partner, you've got your kids, you've got a job. I loved your idea for coming up for content ideas because I think a number of people struggle with that. And to be honest, that's how I fell into talking about books. It's like, like I say, I started, it's almost 2.5 years. April will be 3 years since I uploaded my first video. That's when I uploaded. I started my channel as an account in July. I deleted so many videos and went, no, I look stupid. No, I sound stupid. No, I don't want to say that. Yeah, I know it's not going to be a good video, but I'm not putting that up for anyone to see. And it's like, I just got to upload something already, like no matter how it is. And like you said, right? You find something to improve on, or you finally hit your stride, and things go from there. But there's so many things to learn, like not just in terms of how to present on a camera or what you're going to talk about, but then there's all the YouTube guidelines, the do this, don't do that, you can't say this, you can't show that. And yeah, it's a whole massive learning curve in itself.
Yeah, the biggest part. So I did go through and kind of look at the YouTube rules, but I was like, I'm gonna stick with books. And if I want to do anything else fancy, then I'll go look at the notes because it's long. The list
Oh
is
yeah.
not it's not short of like you can't say these 5 things. It's like no, there's a list and there's a lot of rules. So I think the only time I actually deep dove into the rules was when a few videos ago I did the book adaptations that are coming out in 2025. And I said,
Mm,
I could go through and just talk about it, but I want the trailer. I want to show part of the trailer as I'm yapping.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, what's the rules around that? And it took me a little while to find what you could and what you can't do because some people are like, oh, it can only be this second amount of clips, but
Yeah.
if you take out the sound, you can show the whole thing. And I said, well, I'm taking out the sound. People are just going to have to hear me rambling on about what's happening. So that's the route that I went. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing videos and stuff. I think it's a good time. It's a good outlet, and a chance
Yeah.
to talk about all these amazing books that I'm going through and reading because my wife can only handle so much of me going, oh, you want to hear about this book? Because she's not she reads, but she's not like a big reader. I think she reads maybe 5 books, maybe a year, while I'm
Yeah.
over here reading 5 books a month. So it's like
Right.
it's completely different dynamics there. And she's like, no. So she's more than happy when I go, hey, I need to do a video real quick. She's like, go, have fun. And I go,
Yeah.
okay. And I get to run and go do my videos.
Go chat about your books with
Yeah,
those other book people. And
exactly.
see, it's funny because both my husband and I are avid readers. Now, here's the funny thing. I am the book in hand person. I need to have the physical book in my hand. I need to see both pages,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it works for me. He switched to ebooks a number of years ago. So he's got his tablet, and that's what he reads on. But he and I don't read anywhere near the same type of books. I mean, the closest we get are Stephen King, and I haven't read much King in the last few years. I've revisited a few, but nowhere compared to what I used to read. So he's like Mr. Mystery, trying to even think Ludlum and Cussler and all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, no. Grisham is another one he likes. Me, I'm some fiction, so like King and Michael McDowell and others, and tons of nonfiction. So ancient Egypt, mythology, the Da Vinci spiral all over the place, Templars, Masons, spirituality. And so there's no point trying to talk to him because it's who cares, honey? And I'm like, I don't want to hear how many people shot, spies, stuff. It no doesn't. So booktube, because
Booktube.
you have people who read all kinds of stuff, right? And you make those connections, and it's been really amazing all the different people I've met, and it's nice being able to do chats like this on StreamYard. And hey, here's Noah. Now, here, don't be okay. So, short story here. Ven and Noah, the bookworm, are also known as the Chaos Gremlins. There is this, and the funny thing is, they live like literally a few minutes apart from each other
Oh,
in
that's cool.
Manchester, England.
Short
So,
story.
yeah.
It's so funny.
So they will be bantering back and forth and just let them play. And I don't know if you have heard of this ongoing joke that Noah and I have. And this started from when Ven and Noah were on my live stream a while back. And because I'm book in hand and I annotate with markers and highlighters, and there is mucho writing in my books. And Noah just lost his mind. Like, no, yes, see, here we go. So he's like, no, they should be immaculate. And I bust spines. And well, I have to say, Ven and I had way too much fun tormenting Noah during that. But
So,
go ahead.
so from a annotation perspective, I'm always very intrigued by how people take notes in their book. So
Yep.
I don't write in the book. So what I actually do is I keep these little notebook things and
Yep.
I write on these and put them in the book. So I'm not actually writing in the book, but I'm
Yep.
writing, like, I put the paper in there and I write notes real quick at the back of the book real quick. So I
Yep.
do that. I sometimes use the annotation. I got some of these that I go through
Yep.
and
The little
annotate these.
stickies.
Yeah, so I have these, and so that's normally the two that I go through. But I see some people's books where they highlight everything and they just write
Yeah.
in the margins, which is cool. I feel like if I do that, I would tend to go back on a second reread and start crossing things out and go, no, I think this now, or I think this now. So curious on how you go through and write notes
And do that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, first, I'm just going to say hi to MJ, who is joining us. So, hi,
I
MJ.
adore MJ. MJ, I was talking about MJ recently, and then I do want to go back to your question. I do
Yep.
adore MJ. So I think when I started, I think I had one, maybe two videos out. And MJ does the Thursday, Tuesday, I'm sorry, I can't remember what day, of the new YouTuber like spotlight, I think what she calls it. And she goes in and she brings up our channel and she just like, I at the time I felt like she butchered my channel and she put it and I was just like felt destroyed because she
Oh, no.
gave very, very great feedback, amazing feedback. And I went and like when I watched I was like, man, I feel destroyed right now. Because same thing like what you mentioned, I probably recorded 10 videos before I was okay with kind of putting out the first one. I was like, I'm just putting it out, whatever. So, but her feedback was so good. And I went back after a day and like took everything she said to heart. And I did every single thing she said. And it helped out so much with
Nice.
my channel. So I have so much love for MJ and her constructive feedback. She's awesome.
That's awesome. And it does make a difference because, and that's why I enjoy in comments too. Like sometimes I've had people either send me something on Voxer or via email, or they'll say in the comments. And I think as content creators, we need to hear that because, we look at our videos and we're hoping they're good and we've tweaked them and all of it. But then it's also different for a viewer who's removed from that, right? It's not the same investment. And I always appreciate the constructive feedback. I mean, yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, but I work so hard and I'm sure that but we still need to hear it. And it does make such a world of difference, I think. And I think it's wonderful, that is out there. And that's why I agree too. Like the book community, the booktube community, at least the group that I found myself with and connected to, are all such incredible people. Like thankfully I haven't run into any jerks. And I agree. They're out there. It doesn't matter what genre you go to, right? you're going to find some. But thankfully, none are in this nice little spiral that I found myself in. Like, we're all very supportive and we're encouraging, and it's not, oh, look, you've got this many more viewers and blah, blah. It's like, hey, how can I help you out? What can I do to support you? Or, even if it's just coming and hitting the like button and comments, like, I really get the feeling that everyone's there for each other and it's supportive. It's not competition,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is amazing. And, even MJ says, if we aren't here helping and supporting each other, then what are we even doing? And I
Cannot
agree.
agree more. Cannot agree more. Yeah, I can 100% mirror everything that you went through and said. There 99.99% of the people that I met are amazing people on BookTube. And
Yeah.
they're so supportive, and it's like we all do something that's we love to do, and it's very secluded. Reading a book, you're by yourself. So
Yes.
the camaraderie and the collaboration, the conversation piece, I think that's why we even if we disagree. I have a very good friend that I met on BookTube, and man, we went back and forth in the comments because I I kind of like the new Reacher book. He did not like the Reacher book at all. So we were just like going
Uh,
back and forth. But at the end of the day, we're still, close. We're still close.
yep.
And so that's what I really like. Even if we don't get along about a opinion on a book, it's like that doesn't matter. It's about the love of actually reading and talking about it. So it's always great.
And I wholeheartedly agree. And again, going because Ven and Noah are here, and MJ, I know you've also read the Akatar series, and I'll be honest, I only bought the first game, Court of Thorn and Roses, so that I could bug Ven because he hates Feyre with a passion. And during a live of Noah's, one of his commenters said, well, what character, how would you describe each person from Court of Thorn and Roses? So he named all of us. And I ended up being Nesta. And I'm like, well, that's not fair because I haven't read this. Now I have to read this series because I don't do romance. And so someone said to me, don't approach it like romance. The first book is supposed to be, Beauty and the Beast retelling, but there's so much more to it. So I read A Court of Thorn and Roses, and to be honest, I didn't mind it. And had I stopped there, it would have been awesome. But no, I still needed to find out about Nesta, so I've since read book 2 and 3, which are both, as some people call them, chunkers. Ven calls them doorstops. They're freaking huge, 600 something. And I already had big, and I don't like this series. Noah loves it to bits. But again, the nice thing is having that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There's reasons that I don't enjoy it. I can't really say I'm sorry I read it because at least now I know.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I love when people have a difference of opinion about books that I've read because it gives you a different viewpoint. And I'm really, because of all these conversations with books, really starting to understand how much of ourselves we bring to a book even before we open it, whether that's our life experience, our
Mm-hmm.
work experience, expectations. Because even Fourth Wing, I love dragons, thus the name Cobalt Dragon. So I was thinking Fourth Wing, awesome. Here's a story about dragons. No, no, no. No, no, no. The last 130 pages of the book were awesome. The 400 before, no. But other people love it. And we've, gotten into conversations with them. So I can see where they're coming from. And no, Ven is my bestest bud because he read the other two books for me. So now I don't
He
have
just
to
told you
read
about
the
it. He's like,
series.
this is high level. What you need to know about this story. That's so funny. That's so funny. That's so I agree. I'm personally, I'm not a romanticy. I think that's what it's called, romanticy kind of reader. I wouldn't mind giving one a try, but I need one that isn't so decisive. Where it's
Mm,
like there's you. I hear people that's like, oh, I love this, and I hear other people like, this is the worst thing in the world. I'm like, okay, all right, if I want to dip my toe into something, give me something that's kind of middle of the road, where it's
yeah.
like people agree, it's like it's okay. I want a good starting point. I don't want to jump into something going, I hate this, and then kind of ruin the genre for me. So we'll see. Maybe I'll jump on one of these romantasy books one of these days.
We'll see if you do. And I'm laughing because, yes, Ven did buy the next two books, and I'm dying to find out what he thinks about them. And so Noah's thanking me because Ven bought book 2 and 3 of the series. There's five, I think five all, yes, five altogether. There's book 1, 2, 3. Then she wrote a little 3.5, which is Starlight and Frost and Starlight, and then a book 5. At and that one's going to wait for months because I'm doing Wheel of Time. Well, a few of us are actually I'm rereading the Wheel of Time series. So is Ven, and the others joining us are reading it for the first time. So that's like a big honking fantasy
Oh, yes.
series.
That's see. I've read the first one. I read the first one last year,
Mm,
and it's just a commitment.
yep.
It's a long commitment because if I decide to continue the series, I'm going to have to continue the whole series. So that's kind of my stopping point. I'm like, okay, if I start book 2, I'm reading one book a month as long until I finish the series. So
Yep.
I haven't jumped on that bandwagon yet to finally get through because I hear it's amazing. I hear the whole series is amazing. It's just a lot. It's a
The
lot.
books are
Mhm.
awesome. And I ended up because I rarely watch TV anymore. And we got rid of cable eons ago. I refuse to be nickel and dime by streaming. So we
Mhm.
have Prime. That's it. And even that, I don't really watch much because to me, 8 episodes, you're wanting me to invest my time, get
Mhm.
interested in a character, and when are they coming back? Oh, the series is canceled? Crap, I could have knocked off how many books in that time? Like, no. But I
Mhm.
actually found out about the Wheel of Time because of the series. Because I'd read Lord of the Rings way, way back, and I'd never heard of the Wheel of Time until I saw the series on Prime. And then I'm like, this must be based on books, which is when I found out about the series. And so I decided, okay, I'll buy the first 3 and see how I feel. So I got the box set, and I'm like zipping on through them in a matter of weeks. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got to know where this is going because in book 1, you meet all the main
Mhm.
characters you're going to follow throughout the series. And so I'm like, okay, I need the next set. I need the next set. I knocked those suckers off from the middle of January when I got my first box set by December 2022. I just, except for the prequel, because I'm like, why do I need to read this now? I already know what happens. So this will be my first read through that. But to be honest, reading the books versus the Prime series, I love the books. And they made some big, big changes in the series that I don't know how they're going to work that all out down the road. And they're just coming out with season 3 now, 3 years later. So I'm like, and again, I have no need to watch this now because
Yeah, I haven't I haven't gone through and watched this show yet because I I like reading the book first
mm,
before I watch movies, TV. I want to read the book first. So I was like, okay, let me read the book. So I read the first book, but then I started seeing reviews from people who read the whole series. And same thing,
Mm,
like you said, they were like, there's so many changes. It's okay. And I'm like, I'll stick with just the books and save hours and hours of my time. And I'll just grab another book and I'll go through and read. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
Yeah, MJ's laughing about Ven and the he. This is Feyre hates her so much. It's beautiful. Oh, wait till he reads the other two. Now this is hilarious. Ven, you were not forced to buy them. You went on Amazon. They were on sale, and you've got book buying issues, dude. And we both do. Is that we have this running joke. I'm going to write a 12-step program for book buying because we both have, since I discovered my thrift store and it's like uber close,
Mm-hmm.
my personal library went wild last year. Oh, yeah. So, and Noah, I do and I don't know why I love my horror, so this is strange. Yeah, Noah reads a very different genre, but he's having a great time with Farah, Tamlin, and Rysand. Still new to fantasy, to be fair. And yes, Noah is going to be joining us on Wheel of Time, but Wheel of Time fantasy is way big, detailed compared to like Akatar and some of the other series. Slow, yeah. And I think it's one of those, like you can tell from the first book if it's something you're going to enjoy or not. And like you said as well, Josh, I mean, when you look at the whole series laid out, it's like, whoa, do I want to read that much?
Mm-hmm. It's a long-term commitment. It's a commitment.
Yeah. Ooh, review for Onyx Storm this weekend. Oh, don't watch it, Noah. You haven't started reading yet, but I know how it ends. I got my Voxer updates. A lot of things these days, like Marmite, you either like it or you hate it. Have you ever tried Marmite, Josh?
I have not. No,
I
no. I'm
think
right.
I've tried it once.
Writing that down. I'm seeing. I don't think I have. I'm typing it into the computer real quick. See if I see if I've. I don't think I have. No.
It's an acquired taste. And see, the other running joke we have is cookies and biscuits. We here in Canada and the US call them cookies. Our pals across the ocean are like, they're biscuits. Struggling with Wheel of Time. And that's fair. I mean, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. It's okay, no, I want to try the audio. Oh, there. Yeah, I'm not sure if audio would be better or not. Do you do audiobooks, Josh?
I do audiobooks. So my preference, I'm just like you. I need physical book in my hand. If you give me a physical book, I'm happy as a clam. The second would be audiobook because I like listening to stories when I'm driving or if I'm doing laundry, if I'm doing dishes. I do not mind cleaning the whole house if I can put my headphones on, listen to my stories, and I'm just going to town. So I'm
Yeah,
happy. I'm happy doing that. And then the last is ebooks. Like that's my very last totem pole. I carry one with me, so if I'm out in public, I can just go through
got
and read it.
something.
But I prefer to have a physical book. So yeah, sometimes I listen to audiobooks, mostly when I'm doing stuff.
See, I horrify people if I'm out at appointments because I have my physical book. Yes, Noah, and my pen and highlighter. And I'm just going to town as I'm reading, and people are looking at me. And I almost want to look up and go, it's not a library book. Chill out. I own this. My library books go back immaculate. But my own book, I need to highlight and do things.
You need to make it your own. This is my book. This is my mine. I can do what I want with it. Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you.
And see, and so we're, yep, don't force yourself. Thanks for stopping by, MJ. She's probably heading over to Dave, Olive, and Gareth at Is This Mic On? because their lives are every other Thursday at 7 p.m. See, it's a little community, and you start all making little connections. It's a reading opportunity. Oh, Ven uses Marmite in cooking. See now, book murders everywhere. And see, I did make a video. Noah started the book murders tag. It's not murder, it's modification. And so I made up a video, and it was just fun doing this, and about my stacks of books coming from the thrift store and my little victims. They don't know what's going to happen. And I had my highlighters and my pens and all of this. And yeah, it was a hoot. But now I have part 2 coming up, because I follow a couple of other channels that are booktubers and crafters. And so they modify books. They tear out pages and do different things.
Okay, that I'm with you on highlighting and stuff, but just going through and be like, I don't like this page anymore and ripping it out. That's a little much for me. I think I draw my line on randomly ripping out pages of the books.
Well, see, they're not random. And my friend Janie actually has a box of pages from books. Like, she buys secondhand books literally for the pages to use them in her junk journals. So they're craft supplies. And what I'm doing, because I've started doing some journaling myself, but I also like to use different, because I'm not an artist, I need to trace. Hey, Kat. So I have a little tracer board. It's actually from a Crayola set. It's made for kids, but it works for me. And you turn it on and the light shines up. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do something, you just put down the design that you want, a paper over it, and then you can clearly see to trace it. Works great. But if you have an art book you're trying to do that from, say to get dragons or other shapes, you can't finagle the book. So those pages are coming out. And I actually, just got my scissors here, Noah, but I got my other slicer ready. I cleared off my craft table so that I can record this and do my Book Murder 2 Upping the Game video. Because it's not just markers and highlighters anymore, but it's all for crafting purposes and to make it easier to be able to use those designs and things. Mm-hmm. But you asked me about annotating. And see, I also use sticky notes. I'm also bad and have dog ears. I'll do anything to mark a page that I want noted. But then I also have, I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, I see that.
I've also got notes. Yeah. Yeah, I've got notes on the side. I've got highlighting. Yeah. To me, this is a well-loved, I enjoyed it book. It's written in this, actually, the spine's not too bad on this one. They're pretty crinkly. But to me, it just means I enjoyed the read. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what I do. But basically, when I'm going through it, it's either, did I agree with this point? What other books does this relate to? So, for instance, some of the Paulo Coelho books that I've read, and I also have read Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, and that's based on the Mayans and mindset and keeping yourself grounded. Well, those concepts come up in so many of the other books that I've read. So as I'm reading, I'm like, oh yeah, I read this in that Hicks or, Louise Hay or Paulo. So I have a whole bunch of other books listed beside the paragraph where it related, because if I write it out and look at my notes later, I'm going to go, what was I thinking then? And then I have to get the book and go all through it. And this way, because I'm also going through each of the books and making notes, because, yeah, I am a nerd and I got way too much time on my hands. But what I'm trying to do is pull together like a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with this Da Vinci spiral, I started on that through my reading out the window after, because I had this book, The Secrets of the Code. And I'm like, well, now I got to read Da Vinci again for this to make sense. And then I read that and I'm like, but wait, I have all these books on ancient Egypt and the Templars. And okay, so now I got to. So I'm like over 50 some odd books, all because I wanted to read a book that sat on my shelf for 10 years. And I hated that book. And that one, Noah, is going to get sliced up after I make the notes, of course, because I did find this cool way to repurpose a book and make a journal out of it. But I have to watch that video again because you keep so many pages, pull out so many, and keep so many to turn it into a junk journal recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go back and watch that. Oh, I love that. I can just hear him screaming in his home right now. I'm being good.
See, that's pretty cool doing having a book turn into a journal. I think that's a very good idea. Because what I do, so I keep a fancy little notebook here next to me. So this is kind of what I
Nice.
take my notes in. And what's cool is you can go in and take the books out of there.
Oh, cool.
So I have multiple notes so I use this mostly for my nonfiction books, like my business books I read, my self-help books, books that I need a reference back for,
Yeah.
specifically for my job, for what I go through and do. So I like to go through and same thing, except not actually highlighting the book, but using
Yep.
those tabs so I can come back later and I toss it into this. And this is kind of like my second brain of going in and using
Awesome.
this as my go-to stuff. And I have it set up in a certain way where,
Yeah.
like, okay, this is for a leadership perspective. This one's going to be more of a finance side. This is for X, Y, and Z. And I have it all set up in a different book. And then I can
Yep.
go back and check my notes, and it has what book it came from, the page, and all that kind of logistical stuff. So I can go back and
Awesome.
check it later. So that's kind of what I go through and do. So it's pretty
Now,
cool.
see, it's funny, and Noah thought this was hilarious. Do I have? Yes. I happen to have one of them handy here. So this is 369 Laws of Attraction based on Tesla. So his mathematical theories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a guided workbook. In these, you will find zero writing. The only highlighting will be when I read the instructions, but there will be nothing written in the activity portions. That writing goes in a separate journal. And Noah's like, so you'll color in your other books, but you won't write in a journal that's designed for it. And I'm like,
Is it because you're
no.
going to do it over and again?
Exactly what you had said with those other books, right? Of I don't want to go back
I do the
and
exact
get
same thing
swayed.
for this book as well. I've been writing the Daily Stoic for 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
I do not write in this book. So I do the exact same thing. Even though that's what that book's made for, is to write in
Yep.
it. I don't write in it. I got a whole separate book that every morning I before I start my day, I grab that, read what the prompt is, I let out some thoughts, and then I kind of
Nice.
get my brain started. So yeah, I do the exact same thing. So no, I'm right there with you. I
Yeah.
wouldn't mess with you about that. That's a good one.
So I'll annotate, like I say, in other books, and you can easily tell any book I've read in my library. Now, some still have pretty spines, and part of it will depend on the printing. Like my Wheel of Time ones, they're all mush in the spines.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because the way they were printed, in order to see in the page, if you didn't separated a bit, you'd be doing this the whole time. And no, I own the book, so I want to see the whole page while I'm reading. But yeah, so it's funny. All of my books, you can tell they're well loved because they've got highlights, writing, the whole 9 yards. My journal books, self-help books, look freaking immaculate because other than some highlighting, I won't write in them, because if I'm going to do that program again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be swayed by who I was and what I was thinking 2, 3,
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago. Like, I'm just starting The Artist's Way again by Julia Cameron. And it's the same. I've done that, I think this is either my third or fourth time, but I always keep the notes separate. And the funny thing is, reading it this time, I have to highlight and make notes again because stupid me loaned the book to somebody. They didn't like it, but rather than give it back, it's gone. And I'm like, well, now I'm pissed. I mean, if you didn't like it, why didn't you just give it back to me? Better yet, why did I give you that copy? But on the other hand, it's also a chance to go through and dive into the
Mm-hmm.
information again. And I won't look back at my old notes because that's who I was when I did those activities back then. So it's kind of fun doing them new and fresh again. But you would probably like her morning pages. And I
Mm-hmm.
tried them the first time I did her the 12 weeks. And the idea is you get up each morning and you write 3 pages longhand. And it doesn't matter what it is, it's just flow of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. Like, it's not meant to be massive, epic writing. It's just to basically brain dump and get on with your day. But my brain barely functions in the morning, so there's no point trying to dump. But I get busy brain and insomnia at night because I'm chugging everything through my head of, did I forget anything? What happened? And it was way worse when I used to work because I'd worked as a caseworker and I worked in schools for 23 years. So you had a lot of stuff to
Mm-hmm.
chugga, chugga,
All over
chugga.
it. Mm-hmm.
So for me, journaling at night is what happened. That's when I needed to clear the head so I could get to sleep and wake up and get going in the morning. So, yeah, and I mean, again, that's the thing I love about some of these self-help things is modifying it to what works for the individual. And to me, I think that's, especially as someone with a psych background, I'm like, if it's you got to do it this way, you're catching a very small group of people. But if there's wiggle room and flexibility, you're more likely to get people that it can make a difference for.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a conversation with someone recently, probably in the past month or two, and it was about self-help. They were like, "I don't read self-help books, they're all the same." It's like, well, I get kind of what you're talking about. A lot of self-help, some of the concepts might be the same, but what I really enjoy about it is you get small nuggets of something new of, oh, I didn't think about doing things this way. And that's what I really enjoy about it. I don't go through a self-help book going, I'm going to the whole book, the 200, 300 pages is going to be all brand new. It's like, no, 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 give me one, it could be just one paragraph or one sentence, and I
Yeah.
go, that's what I read this book for. Right here, this is it. And then I write it down and I come back to it later on. So that's what I get out of self-help books. I'm not looking for the aha moment. I'm looking
Yeah.
for just small little nuggets of knowledge or a better way of thinking
Yep.
through things. So that's what I really like about them.
And I agree too. And I love the ones that have different quotes. Like
Mhm.
and I'm just looking up because the board's literally here. I'm setting up a positivity board. Well, I'm redoing it. I had it last year. And then I'm like, No, I want to change it up a bit, and I still have to finish it with my glow in the dark stickers because, who doesn't love glow in the dark? And so I've got all kinds of sayings, and I've got like from the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So, be impeccable with your words, don't take things
Mhm.
personally, don't assume. I always break it down into ass, you, me, as in don't make an ass of you and me by making assumptions, and do your best. So, I mean, those are the four things from that whole book. I've got things from The Life Purposes by Dan Millman. I have the five Reiki principles. And then I have other things up there that are important and pictures. And this is where I'm typically sitting when I'm editing videos and things, or sometimes when I'm writing, because my cats take over my chair by the lower table to work on. But so if I'm sitting here and I'm kind of having like a meh or blah, then I'll look up and go, oh, yeah. And, my attention will be caught by something important. And I'll set something up similar to that downstairs where I'm going to do some of my storytelling videos or work on crafts. So, again, if I have that set up there, I've always found things like that helpful. Like when I had a resource room in the high schools, we had pictures and sayings, and some of the kids were like, whoa, this room is not like every other room. And I'm like, yeah, it's not meant to be. I had like Jack Skeleton and other things because, like, you got to laugh. You got to have those inspirational things.
So, when it comes to your quotes that you have on your board, do you go through and just constantly add more? Or
Yep.
after a certain time, you just go through and like, you know what? I'm switching things out, and you take some down and you put new ones up. How do you do it from your board of quotes? Because I also have a board of quotes
Yeah.
here. So I have one, and I write down a bunch of quotes or little sayings, same exact reason where I'm like having a rough time or in my own head. I just go back and whatever one finds my eye, I'm like, that's the one I was supposed to go through and read.
Yeah.
But after a month or two, I switch it out. I just put a whole new set up there, and that's usually what I go through.
Now,
So I'm
see,
curious what you do.
I've kept mine up for a year. So I first went through the board and decided what I wanted to put up and found some different quotes and things. And I, added glow in the dark stickers, sparkly tape. I've got a heart that was my grandmother's for sewing. She kept her pins in it. So, I mean, that's important because she's been gone a long time. So I just embellish it because I love colors. I always have. So I have things written in different colors with markers. I have words that are significant. And then that's going to stay up there probably for the next 6 to 8 months, unless I decide. And if I decide, nah, I want different colors and different sayings, then I'll switch it up. But otherwise, that's just going to be what stays up there because I like it.
That's cool. That's
And then
cool.
I've got another board that I need to finish. This was my career and confidence board. So what I did was I had pictures and words and my goals, and it was set up back where that
The flag.
Celtic symbol
Mhm.
is right now. And so I would, either way I looked in the room, I either had my goals or my positivity. This one I think I'm going to now do up for, because I'm doing a lot of different programs this year from the self-help books I have. So like The Artist's Way and
Mhm.
a bunch of projects. So I think what I might do with that one is just set up so I can keep track of the projects and leave my positivity the way it is, because I incorporated some of the words like, and my glasses, I'm creative, or courage. So I have the word courage with a mountain. And I've got a card that says growth in the middle and around it all the different ways. So that's like connections, being social, doing research, sharing what you know. And so it's kind of a whole mishmash of, and like you said, when I look up, I look at what I need to focus on. So the one important, well, they're all important, but one especially on like meme days with booktube and the analytics go crazy, whatever. Don't give up. Great things take time. So it's like, plugging along, and you stick with it instead of going, it's not for me. And I'm going back to the comment section. It's easier.
Well, yeah, and I think I said that during my 90-day video was
You did.
that exact same thing, of going through and just finding your why. That's not, I want to be the biggest booktuber. You know, if that's your goal, awesome. You're probably going to have to follow trends and
Yeah.
go like, what is hitting now? What do I have to do? What do I have to like? What do I have to dislike? Kind of videos.
What do I have to read?
What do I have to read? And I'm sorry, that's never going to be me.
Yeah.
I read everything under the sun except romantasy. We talked about that, but I
Yeah.
read nonfiction, fiction, thrillers, like fantasy, science, everything. I love just the fact of reading.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no way I'm going to follow the trends of like, all right, now this new book's coming out. Everyone has to read it and review it. I'm like, I'll read it when I want to read it. Don't tell me when I'm going to read it. I'm not back in school. Like, I'm
Yeah,
going to read when I want to.
exactly. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm just thinking I better catch up on comments. So yes, Kat's also part of the little book murdering chuckle gang. Don't lie.
So while you're going through the comments, I do
Yep.
have I have a little game that I've been playing on every live that I go on.
Okay.
So every live I go on, I want to do a fun little game. It's called Unpopular Opinion. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want your hot take on this unpopular opinion. Now, this is not my unpopular opinion. This is something that I've read, and I'm curious on your hot take.
Okay.
So, you ready for it?
I am. Oh,
All right.
hang on. Say hi to Brian.
Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Brian's awesome.
Yeah, see? Between David, Gareth, and Pat. Well, we appreciate you being here. See how I did that? And I'm stalling. Oh, look, and we're actually caught up. Woohoo! Most of the trends are blah anyways. I agree.
I
Okay.
cannot agree more. I cannot agree more. All right, so unpopular opinion. Here we go, Elaine.
All right.
Happy endings are boring and not realistic.
It really depends on the story. I love when you can finally get a happy ending because life sucks sometimes and you want someone to have it go well. Just saying.
Just saying. Okay.
What about you?
So I think any story can have a good or bad ending. It just depends on when you stop the story.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's I like a good happy ending, but you know what? I'm good with a crazy ending as well. Like I am completely fine with ending a book going, that's where we're gonna end it. We're ending it like this just bad thing happened, and it's like, and that's it. So I'm fine either way, personally. But I don't need a story to have a happy ending. Like, for example, I just did a buddy read with Ted Red instead. So we went through and we read Jurassic Park.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jurassic Park does not have a happy ending. The story, and spoilers for anyone who has not read Jurassic Park after however long that book's been out. It
See, I've
ends
seen
with,
the movies, never read the book, so maybe I need to.
The book's good. The book's good. Definitely, if you read the book, definitely afterward, reach out to me. I'll send you my passionate rant that I did about this book. There was some parts I was very passionate about because no one ever talks about this one scene in the book. It was nuts.
Oh, looks like Noah's read it.
No, Noah, it's fantastic. It's a very good book. But it ends just abruptly. They get taken off the island. They are talked to by doctors, and they're pretty much like, all right, now you're going to be quarantined and locked up for an indefinite amount of time. We'll let the kids free. The kids can go back home, but you're going to be stuck here. And then the story ends.
Oh my.
So it's like you survived dinosaurs and now you're going to be stuck. And it's like you're not prisoners, but you're not going anywhere. So that's not a happy ending, but I still love the book.
No.
I thought it was great. I thought it was great.
Interesting. And was there ever a part 2?
There is a part 2. I've not read it. So curious. The kids were so annoying. Is that who you're talking about? The kids were so annoying?
It could be. And so Kat, with depends who gets the happy ending. I love when the billionaire gets a bad ending. Okay, can't lie. It is satisfying when that happens and the Yutz gets his. Love the deaths, how different the characters are from the movie. And see, and actually it's interesting because Josh, you were saying you prefer to read the book before you watch a movie or a show. And typically I do that. Not always, but I'll try. And one of my former students, bless his little heart, gave me the Divergent series. And they're fairly thick books. And there's a book there to explain the books and all the factions, I think they're called. And I kept looking at this series going, no. I mean, you got to remember, I'm used to reading H.G. Wells and, Jules Verne and Bram Stoker. I mean, those boys could do it in 300 pages and write a good story, even less than 300. These big suckers are like, they're a commitment. And this was long before I got into Wheel of Time and those book sets. So I'm like, no, I'm watching the movies. I'm not reading these just yet. I finally read them, I think, 2 years ago. So they sat for 9 some odd years waiting. But I'd never cracked the books open. I finished them like in a day and a bit because they're big print, but they're big books. So you wouldn't know that until you read it. And and what I'm going to do is a comparison of the book versus the movie. And the books at least have an ending because the movies never did. I don't know if they were planning on making a 4th movie or a TV series, but it never happened. So at least the books gave me the ending that the show didn't.
Yeah, I've not seen it. So I'll be very curious to, once you put up that video, to see if that's something I would be interested to watch.
It's a good read. I enjoyed the read. I will say that. I even read The Hunger Games for the first time. I finished it last year because I was doing the banned book project that MJ had started. So I managed to read 24 plus books throughout the year. And Hunger Games was part of them. I think I'd read the first 2 the year before. And to be honest, I'd hesitated reading it because I'd heard different things about it, not on BookTube, but just around because I was still working in schools then. Divergent, I like better because we have Trish, the strong character who comes into her own, develops her skills and all of that. And yes, it's a bit of a messed up society and you've, got these people observing them. And so there's all kinds of things to it. And I'm not going to say much because you haven't read or seen it. But Hunger Games, I mean, you have kids being selected from these different communities to basically hunt and kill each other for other people's entertainment. Now, maybe it's just me, but that's pretty messed up. Like
It's a yeah, it's a little bit dark. It's a little bit dark, a little bit. And so I've never read those books. I've never read the Hunger Games books, but I have seen all the movies. I've seen them
Hmm.
all. It I wasn't a huge fan. But yeah, it was definitely dark. It was definitely dark, and it like yeah, it's definitely a different kind of story. Like I know it's
Hmm.
like young adult, but I feel like you could have grabbed a an adult darker theme with that story and made it super dark. So I feel like they went the right route with it being young adult.
Yeah. So in Kat saying book series cursed, read one for high school. Oh, got terrible news when I tried to read the sequel. Yeah, that does suck. So, and see, comments, support, thanks anytime. So again, lovely community. But yeah, I agree with oh, must have been Divergent. She said, never read Hunger Games. Feels like we're trying to live it now. No thanks. I need to escape reality, not read about it. And to be honest, that's part of, and it was going to be one of my books to finish for banned books was Brave New World, because I've never read it before. And I mean, I've heard tons about that. And Fahrenheit 451. And I'd started Brave New World and I'm like, no, I'm like in the middle of it. I don't need to read this right now. And
Yep.
I did reread Orwell's 1984. And
Mhm.
I on purpose waited until 2024 because initially I read it in 1983. It scared the bahooey out of me, which is funny considering back then we didn't have things like this was like Jetson cartoons for me. Like seeing people when you're talking to them in real time, that's crazy. And we didn't have the internet or, CCTV everywhere, any of that stuff. But just the ideas that Orwell presented and how totally freaked me out. And I was not looking forward to 1984. It was like a lot of people in 1999 when they thought the machines were going to all freak out when they rolled over to 2000.
I remember that very clearly. I was a young whippersnapper
Yeah.
at that time, and there was a big party in the neighborhood, and it was like everyone stayed up thinking their computers were going to blow up or whatever they were thinking. I don't know what they were
Yeah.
the mindset was, and I remember being in the house and it was fun, and everyone was counting down till midnight, and the person whose house we were went through and shut off the power when it turned to the New Year's, and everyone started freaking out. And I
Oh my
remember looking out the window and being like, why is the neighbor's lights on if the power went out? And they were like,
Oh.
oh, he ruined it. It was a joke. And I was like, oh, it's like, I was like, I didn't know. I was just a little dude solving the mystery, solving it.
Yeah. Well, and look at all the money. Well, you're a little dude, so you you wouldn't. But the money that people were making, going and doing stuff on computers and patches and this and that, and the coffee makers were gonna go crazy, and it's like seriously, wow.
It's so funny.
On don't forget to love tap that like button, and he's off nighty night. So I'm glad he was with us for a bit. But yeah, those were crazy times. Now Orwell and reading it in 2024 did not make me feel any better. And I actually did a video comparing 1984 to 2024 because like I said, back then we didn't have internet and all this stuff. And one of my comments for 2024 was, you don't need the government to come put surveillance camera in. How many people have CCTV on? they willingly signed up and pay to have it in their house. And, you know, you got Alexa and Siri and this and that. And it's like, Orwell was off a little bit. He was thinking the government would have to do it, but apparently not. Like,
Nope. Nope. We have these fancy things that we carry
and
with us 24/7 that can never be shut off. So, yeah, you know, it's we've accepted it and it's part of our day-to-day that we need to have. Yeah, so I've read Fahrenheit and 1984. They're both great. I have not read them recently. I think I read them 2 years ago. I probably need to read them again. I probably need to go through and deep dive into those again. Those are fun and very intriguing. I like going back and reading. So I don't think we talked about it, but I just started reading 5 years ago, like as an adult. So seriously reading 5 years ago. Before that, I was a big movie person. So
oh yeah,
every time people go through like, oh man, you should go through and read, or oh, I've read this book as a kid. I'm like, I didn't read it at all as a kid. So I just write things down. I don't think I even read Lord of the Rings until 3 years ago. That was the very first time I read those. So there's so many that I need to catch up on that I'm so behind, but it's so much fun going through and just diving into these amazing stories and definitely seeing what people had to read and experience when they were young to going through and reading them now. So it's a lot of fun.
cat. Again, why am I reading real life?
Just change the names out.
Not sweetie.
Just change the names out a little bit. It'd be like, oh, okay, am I reading the news?
Yeah, exactly. So here's a question then.
Mhm.
What got you to switch from movies to books?
COVID.
Really?
Short story, COVID. It's a long story. Big movie, TV show buff. Like if there was a movie, a TV show, I watched it. I had the mind. I was that annoying person when Harry Potter came out. So I've never read Harry Potter. Never read one page of a Harry Potter book in my whole life.
I'm just laughing because Kat's a huge Harry Potter fan.
It's on my to-do list. It's on there. I just haven't had the opportunity to sit down and go through because I think it's going to be, I start one, I'm going to have to binge the whole thing. So huge fan of the movies. I hear the books are a million times better. So I'm super excited to go through. So what got me to switch over during COVID is there was nothing new coming out from a TV or movie. There was nothing. I was like, I need something new. So I was listening to a podcast and someone brought up a book and they were explaining the story. And I said, okay, this sounds cool. So I went and picked up the book and read it. And I said, oh my goodness, this book is amazing. Why is no one in my circle that I knew talking about this book? This is amazing. Do people read books? Do they know about this book? So I looked it up, and then that's when I stumbled upon YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, there's a group of people on YouTube that talk about books. Oh, cool. And then that's what got me started because I started watching their stuff. They said, if you like this book, read these. So I started just picking up books and been obsessed ever since. It's very hard for me for someone to say, you need to watch this new TV show. I'm like, how many episodes? It's an hour-long episodes. Listen, it is so good. There's only 4 seasons. I'm like, 4 seasons, 10 episodes a season, an hour. That's 10 hours. That's 40 hours. No, I'm good. I'm good. So I would rather read. I think reading's better personally, but that's just my preference now.
And see, I've always been a reader. Like I grew up in the country. So it's not like you were out gallivanting the streets and stuff. So books were always awesome and you could travel everywhere. And so I've always been interested in them, and I've switched from horror genre to nonfiction to back to reading some fiction again since I've been on BookTube. I mean, and it would be funny because as an EA, I was always laid off during the summer because school here is out July and August. So that's when I would get most of my reading done and sit out in the back. We'd go back to school in September and the kids are like, oh, what did you do? And, they'd be talking about where they went. And I'm like, yeah, I went to Egypt. And then I, went down to wherever in South America. And then I was off to over here, and they're looking at me and they're like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, books. No line up at the airport. I just cracked the cover on my back deck and
Grabbed my highlighter, got my book, and I was off for the races. It was good.
had my notes. So Kat's saying, with Potter, they're good, but the last books will make you cry.
I love it.
I don't think I've read the last one. Depends how much my brain wants to work. Watching takes no effort, it's quick, but books usually have more action and better lines. Well, and that's it, because with TV, you have to keep people interested and keep it going, and they change. Like I say, with Wheel of Time, I mean, the one big change, and it's not a spoiler, but in the first episode, they have Perrin married, even though they're young teens. But in the book, he isn't married until about book 5 or 6. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge difference in how his character responds and reacts to things. And yeah, so for TV, it's much different. And for me, the other is because I grew up and a season was 25 episodes. Like that was a season. They started September, they finished in June. Who cared about reruns in summer? I lived in the country. I wasn't inside anyways. But then all this stuff started changing and these little dinky episodes. So you don't get the same character development. You don't know when the seasons are starting. There's a new episode, then there's a couple reruns, then it might be that it's like, no, I'm not paying that much attention to get a new episode. Like I'll either buy the series and binge it. And then I found out with Vampire Diaries, that's not good because I watched it on TV. We did get the series and we watched it. And I'm like, Nina's an idiot. I mean, I didn't like some of the characters the first time, but the main character, I'm like, why did I watch this again? So that went to the secondhand store for some moolah because it's like, I ain't watching this again. I mean, you know, Stefan's easy on the eyes, but seriously, there's lots of eye candy and different things to watch. Brian snuck into a building, abscond, shark tissue samples on New Year's Eve. Figured I wouldn't have to speak to anyone.
Brian's so funny.
That's hilarious. Love it. What you do with the shark samples? Oh, the things people do, it's hilarious. But yeah, I find I'd much rather read than, and I'm not into like those brand new reads. It's funny, when I first started, and I think sadly he's passed away, one of my earliest subscribers who had chatted with quite often in the comments and streams. And he was funny. He's like, your channel's like going through an old secondhand bookstore because it really isn't a lot of the newest reads. I mean, I think, yeah. And see, even I'm looking around and I'm thinking, no, even Akatar isn't new. Like, I love the older books. They're just, you know, they're written differently, and you don't have to worry, is the author going to finish this series or aren't they? You know, it's the same as TV. I'm to the point, and it's not just because I'm 61, but time's precious. And I've lost a lot of people throughout my life. So I'm like, no, I'm very particular about who I hang with and how I spend my time and all of that. Because, okay, sure, I've watched Supernatural 3 times, but I love the paranormal. So
Supernatural is one of the shows I binge watch so many times. So many times. Now, it might be an unpopular opinion in the room, and if it is, I'm so sorry. But I truly believe Supernatural top tier Supernatural ended after season 5. Everything after that, I still watched the whole thing, but it's fun. It's fun after that. Like the first 5 seasons, I'm like hooked. It's actually horror, and it's so like I'm so part of it. But then
Yep.
afterward, it was like we need a broader audience, so let's kind of like make it less dark. And it was like literally like the lighting of the show brightened up because the
Yeah.
first 5 seasons was like we're in the dark, we're chasing monsters, and then afterward it's like no, they can be in the daytime too. So
Yeah.
it's always fun finding random Supernatural fans because I feel like I always find them in random spots. It's like I found one. There's another one.
And see, it's funny because we started watching it on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's funny you say that. I think it was either season 5 or 6 that I stopped watching it. Because of course the first couple years, and it was only supposed to be on one season, and it was
Mm-hmm.
all the fans who got it back, and then it lasted 15 seasons. But like you say, in the first few seasons, of course, they're trying to find this demon and
Mm-hmm.
what happened to their mother. And, you're trying to figure out what's happening with the dad. And then there's all these paranormal creatures. I was always so jealous of the dad's journal that they read because
Oh
I'm like,
man, same.
but
Honestly, that's one
how
of the reasons why I
neat.
picked this journal to write in because I was trying to be cool, like the Supernatural dad. Yeah, come on now, like, yeah, I'm a secret Supernatural fan.
But I mean, his writing and drawing was immaculate. And I'm like, I have a ton of journals that I need to use, but some of them I won't write in because what if I make a mistake and it gets messy? And I used to look at that journal on Supernatural going, how did he never make a mistake? And it was always the right size page for all the notes. I'm like, oh, I want that kind of journaling. But I agree. And it was funny because I was still working in a high school then. And so the kids were all big Supernatural fans and they had the magazines and all kinds of stuff. But it was after the apocalypse. And then I think it was when the so yeah, finally got all that demon stuff figured out. They had the apocalypse, this and that. In one season, they dealt with the mother of all. I mean, are you kidding me? It
Mhm.
took you 3 years to kick one demon ass, but you
It
took
yeah,
out the
it took
mother of all in one.
it took 5 years. Yeah, 3 to 5 seasons to deal with one. And then in the later seasons, it was like, "Oh, we beat up demons easy now." I'm like, "You're older. You're a little bit slower than what you were when you were 20, but now you can just like one punch a demon." It's like, "Okay. All right.
Yep.
Fine. Fine. I'm in for the ride. I'm already here." Like, but I got some gripes.
Well, and then when the Leviathans came and Cassiel, I mean, and they died, came back. And then I'm like, okay, then there's suddenly this half brother, but no, he's toast. He ain't coming back. It's like, well, that's hardly fair, is it?
Mhm.
Like, how many times have you guys died and you're resurrected? But
Yep.
yes, I definitely enjoyed and binged that. And yeah, it's one of the few because, like I say, the time, right? New stuff's always too expensive. Hear about it everywhere. Get your hopes up. Can't, yeah, Fourth Wing. Like, if I hadn't borrowed that from the library, I'd be pissed. Neat. Then seriously,
Then
I
it's
think I
good, man.
stopped when Purgatory was the
Mhm.
focus. Still,
Uh-oh.
still haven't watched it. Keep saying gonna. Hey,
Just
there's eye candy.
stop at season 5. Just think it's 5 seasons. Everything past that is fan fiction. If you want to continue, you can, but you can stop at season 5.
Huh? How many books did you buy while being way too quiet, then? You did not just buy. Oh no, he's shopping tonight. So, because I know he had an Amazon package. One's a book we used to have to read. Oh, in class 8, that's the vampire one. Delivered them to a lab down the hall at my then workplace. been at the location before, just not at the hour. That's funny. Me not watching is a given. That's, yep. To be fair, Ven has missed out on many, many different things.
So I got a question for you because I know you're a big fan of the supernatural, the spirit elements. We've talked about that a little bit, and then you've also mentioned you're a fan of horror.
Yep.
Have you read Max Brooks? Are you familiar with Max Brooks?
No.
Okay. So Max Brooks, he wrote I think he's most famous for a zombie book. It's like a survival, but that's not the one I'm referencing. So he wrote a book called Devolution, and it's about a Sasquatch
Ooh.
massacre. So pretty much what the premise of the story is. And I think it might be right up your alley. And I'm very curious if you'd like it. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So it's about these hippie people where they go through and they want to start their own little community. So they start a community and things are going great. They have their community together. They're working with each other. They're trying to kind of stay away from the city and do their own thing. Where there ends up being a huge wildfire that happens out in the distance, and they're like, oh my goodness, that's crazy, there's a big fire, but they end up stopping it. But during that fire, Bigfoots are getting pushed through their community, and so they have to deal with these Bigfoots as they're getting pushed from this wildfire. They can't leave, they're stuck there, but now they have to deal with hearing noises, what's going on. It's a fun ride. It's a fun one, so it might be up your alley. So there's a book recommendation.
The title?
Devolution.
Devolution?
Devolution. Let me find the exact. Let me do a little.
Okay, Devolution. And that's Max Brooks, M-A-X?
M-A-X Brooks, correct.
Okay, I'll have to give that a try for sure.
So it was the first-hand account of the Rainer Sasquatch massacre. So a little bit of hints of what's going to happen in the title. So it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Sounds interesting.
If they got a physical map that you can go through and see what the compound looked like. I don't know if I can.
Oh wow!
Yeah, let me see if I can. I don't. All right, we're gonna test something. All right, we're going to see. Here we go. See if we can share this screen.
Oh, cool.
There we go. So you can see this is from the actual book, and you can see.
Oh, neat.
So when you're going through and reading the book, you can go through and see like, okay, this is what's happening. This is where they are from here. So, but yeah, it's a very fun kind of story, and I love it when they have a good map where they go through and tell you, hey, this is what's happening, and I can actually see it. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah, it sounds great. And same, I enjoy when they have maps like in Wheel of Time. You've got the different maps of the towns as they go to them throughout the book, which is always handy and you've got the main map of the continent. Actually, it's funny, even Akatar has the maps for the different courts and everything. There's a lot of different things like that. And even though Ven is not a fan of The Alchemist, I loved that Paulo put the map in the front so you could actually follow Santiago's journey if you're not familiar with where he was traveling. That was very good. Now, I don't know if you know Jenny Parks. Comments quite a bit in a number of videos. I know she's over at Dave and Garrett's live because I was there before. I'm like, okay, I gotta go because I got my own live tonight, guys. But Jenny is like wild with ebooks. Like she's got, I don't know how many thousands. Ooh. And so we've got she's going to be in our 12-step program too. But she did tell me during the live, because I was teasing her, I'm like, how many books have you bought? But she's actually behaving. So Ven's got us all out purchased this year. She has 3 to your cheater one. Gotta start first to prove you're not gonna go back on your end. That's not how it works. Gotta start it off, can't be trusted. So much. Yep. Has to have a good map. I agree. They make a world of difference. Folks are planning, moving all over. Yeah, sometimes I mean, at the front is handy because then you can quick flip back if you need to. Whereas if they're throughout the story, sometimes it's a little harder to go. The map was okay, fine, but that's not why you didn't like The Alchemist, Then. Bet she's up to 4,100 before spring is here. Just about over 40 this year. It's only February.
Crazy. That's crazy.
That's wild. But hey, we're almost up to an hour and a half. Are you still good? Time to wrap up?
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. If you have any burning questions, I do have to start getting the little rugrats to bed.
Oh, little rugrats, so cute. I do not have any burning questions other than would you like to come back on a live at some future
Yeah,
date?
of course. Of course.
Awesome.
I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff, and I would love to keep these conversation going. I feel like there's a lot of things that both of us do that's in common, and I do like that. That's what I do
Yeah.
love about this booktube stuff, because it's like you find commonalities with people even outside of books, where
Yep.
it's like, oh, you keep notes of little quotes on the side. Me too. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. So yeah, of course, I'll be more than happy to come back on again at a later date.
That would be awesome. And see, everyone, this was a blast. This was fun. I appreciate everyone who has been able to join us. And yeah, I agree. Who knew? Suddenly we would find out we both like supernatural.
Right? Right? You gotta, because we have a stronger bond than a lot of people that I've met on BookTube, just from the supernatural perspective.
Well, and even the rarely watching TV, because it's funny, I'll watch some others and they'll be talking about this series and that series. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting nickeled and dimed for 10 different streaming channels. Like, forget it.
Well, not even that. I don't have the time. It's like
Well,
I have way too many books I need to read, and the kids and the job and the wife and the friends, and it's like I gotta make a commitment somewhere, and I'm not dropping the family.
yeah.
I enjoy them, and then I like reading, so it's like dropping out the TV. So
How
most
old are your little ones?
5 and 3.
Aw, teeny,
Six.
teeny.
6 and 3. I'm sorry. 6 and 3. I'm
Oh,
so sorry. I'm about to get yelled at because I know my wife's watching. So sorry.
funny. Oh, that's so cute. See, and a bunch of us have fur kids. I don't have the human version. Mine all have fur and 4 paws.
Yeah, I have. I got one. I got one little dog. So she was my first one. So we got her. She's what, 7 or 8 now? I think she's 8 now. She's getting up there. She's getting up there, but she still gets a little pep in her step and starts moving.
He's cute. Yeah, and Ven, I miss mine being that young. He's got a 20-year-old, a teenager, and I can't remember how old your boy is, Ven. Might be 9 or 10, so his are a bit older. Brian's heading out.
See you, Brian.
Cat has fur kids. 10. Woohoo! I was close. For baby's best. Fuss fighting. Oh, they must be getting ready for dinner soon. Cat has 2 dogs and a cat. I have 3 cats and a husband. Well, this was an absolute blast. I'm so glad that you were able to join, and we got to cover a few things, and my record's holding. I have my 10 questions for when booktubers come on. I think I've gotten through them twice since I started doing this with the 10 questions. I think Ven was on for the 3rd time when he finally said, okay, let's just do these questions.
I think we need to do that. We'll plan that for the next one. For the next one, we'll commit after a certain time. It's like, all right, we're gonna knock out all the questions, and then we'll jump back to just talking about whatever comes up. So, because I'm curious,
Randomly
what
chatting.
questions you got. I'm curious what questions. So
Well, the first one was about your channel name. So, hey, we started off.
started strong. Started strong.
Well, this was so much fun, and I really appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Yeah, chaos does indeed reign.
Love it. I love it. Yeah.
It makes for a fun time. So I'm going to say good night to everyone. Hit the end stream. Thanks for joining. Do the little wave until it comes up with